Welcome everyone to our Packers News live chat alongside Jim Owczarski. I am Olivia Reiner. The Packers cranked up the crowd noise inside of Lambeau Field for their final dress rehearsal before Sunday's game against the Detroit Lions. We'll bring you the latest on the injury report for both the Packers and the Lions in just a moment. However, as always, we want to hear from you. You can get involved in our show today by heading over to Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Down in the comments, leave us a question, leave us the thoughts, and Jim and I will address some of those toward the end of our show today. Head coach Matt LaFleur officially ruled out defensive lineman Kenny Clark from Sunday's game against the Lions. That may mean an increased role for nose tackle backup Tyler Lancaster. That he played 23 snaps against the Vikings in week 1. However, he hasn't played more than 30 snaps since 2019, week 7 against the Oakland Raiders. Jim, how prepared is Tyler Lancaster to take over some snaps from Clark, who's out with a groin injury?
Yeah, he's going to have to be, right? He played full games back in 2018 under interim coach Joe Philbin, I think, when the team was trying to get a sense of what kind of player they had. It's not going to go that way. Kingsley Keke is going to get some snaps. We'll see if Montravius Adams suits up at all. But you figure Tyler Lancaster is going to be the first man up, especially in the base defense, especially if the Lions want to run the ball as much as we think they're going to. So I think he can handle it. It's just what you're going to miss is the dynamic playmaking that Kenny Clark brings. I mean, Tyler Lancaster knows where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to do, but he's not a $73 million Pro Bowler. I mean, I don't know if you're going to see being able to shut off a block that's play action and chase Matthew Stafford there's tiers, right, Olivia? So I think Tyler Lancaster will see more snaps, but I do think the other guys, especially Kingsley Keke, might work in a little bit as well.
On the offensive side, tight end Josiah DeGuara missed his second consecutive practice with an ankle and a shin injury. He is listed as questionable heading into Sunday's game. DeGuara only had one reception for 12 yards against the Minnesota Vikings. However, he lined up all over the formation and was used in the run blocking game. Jim, how are the Packers going to replace him if he's unable to play on Sunday?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I guess my first thought is we'll see John Lovett promoted from the practice squad either to the active roster with Lane Taylor if they make a move finally there, or up again, as an active player as he was on Sunday. So now you've got another fullback, H-back type guy. And then I think you'll see a little more Jay Sternberger. I think Sternberger of him and Robert Tonyan fits that DeGuara type role a little better. If DeGuara can't go, I think it's a Lovett and Sternberger combination. And, we'll find out if either of those guys are ready for some more snaps.
Last week, the big story surrounding the offensive line was the health of Billy Turner at right tackle, if he was going to be able to go after dealing with a right knee injury against the Minnesota Vikings. He was unable to go. However, this week he has returned to practice. Today, he was a limited participant in practice. The day before, he was a full participant. He's listed as questionable for Sunday's game against the Lions. So is Lucas Patrick, who sustained a shoulder injury against the Minnesota Vikings. Jim, now that the Packers are down Lane Taylor, the guard who sustained a season-ending knee injury in the game against the Vikings, who do the Packers start along the offensive line if both Turner and Patrick are healthy to go?
Yeah, this is a great question, and few things have gotten my Twitter mentions as fired up as this. With a lot of fans were saying, "Hey, it should be Rick Wagner and John Runyon Jr." Or honestly, my gut says that Billy Turner won the right tackle job, so he's gonna go there if he can play, and it'll be Lucas Patrick at right guard. John Runyon being the next man up inside, Rick Wagner being your next man up at right tackle. That's my gut. But I would not be surprised if they just decide, hey, Billy Turner started 16 games at right guard last year. let's just put him back there, and then you have Rick Wagner. I think they like the idea of another veteran backup tackle in Wagner right now. I mean, he was surpassed by Elton Jenkins, right? So why would he now start week 2? So that's why my gut is it's Patrick Turner, but I wouldn't be surprised if they ran out a different combination.
Moving over to the Detroit Lions injuries, they have been dealing with quite a few, especially at the starter position. Both wide receiver Kenny Galladay and cornerback Desmond Trufant are going to be out for Sunday's game. They're both dealing with hamstring injuries. Jim, how can the Packers exploit this potential benefit? And the Detroit Lions, they're at a loss without these two players.
Yeah, let's start on defense with Trufant first. That's also compounded by losing nickel corner. I think Justin Coleman was put on IR earlier this week. So now you're down 2 starters. First-round pick Jeffrey Okudah didn't play last week. He is coming back. And now usually you would say, hey, a starter coming back, that's a good thing, but he's a rookie, first of all. He's been out for a while. And just reading reports from our colleagues up at the Free Press, Olivia, Okudah kind of had a slowish start to camp. So here's this guy going to make his NFL debut. I mean, he's going to have to do it at some point, but matching up with Devontae Adams, that's not exactly a recipe for immediate success. So I clearly think the Packers have yet another advantage, receivers to corners. I think that's something they can for sure exploit. Now let's flip it around. Kenny Galladay really hurt the Packers last year. Big receiver, took advantage of that size along with Marvin Jones Jr. When you don't have one of them, you can spend a little more attention on the other. And while TJ Hawkinson factors in there as well as a tight end, I think not having Galladay, who has been so good, really can change things defensively, I think, for the Packers. So, it creates, you think, of more of a run emphasis for Detroit. But I think we thought we would see that anyway, right? So I think if for sure it's going to be that offensive side of things for the Packers. I think that that means more, I guess, for them.
I believe your dog agrees with you there, Jim. Is that Zosha or Easy?
She did come down the stairs and definitely agreed that the Green Bay Packers will throw the ball quite a bit on those players.
There you go. You heard it from Zosha, everybody. Let's move over to our lovely viewers over on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. We'll start with Walter Smith. We've heard a lot of questions about the offensive line. However, I don't think I've heard anyone ask, can Rick Wagner play guard? The Packers picked up Rick Wagner this offseason as an aspiration that he would be able to play right tackle, if not start, then to back up. What do we know about Rick Wagner's history at guard? Do the Packers even really need him to play guard?
No, he's not playing guard. I mean, Lucas Patrick, if he can go, is going to start at right guard, in my opinion. Then you've got John Runyon Jr., who's a guard. So, no, I mean, Rick Wagner, I guess technically he can kick inside, but you've got Yash Nyman to play left tackle. Wagner's your backup right tackle. And so no, I guess it's possible if worse comes to worse, but that's not why he's on the team.
The Packers are likely to have enough depth there at guard to shore them up for the game this weekend, especially with Turner seemingly healthy. Same with Patrick. Elton Jenkins also likely to play this weekend. Thank you, Walter, for your question. Let's take a question here from Michael. Michael wants to know, how many snaps will running back A.J. Dillon have this week? Dillon is vying for snaps alongside Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in that running backs room. How many will Dillon get this week?
Well, he only had 3 Sunday, and Matt LaFleur thought that's not enough. I don't really see it jumping to 15 or anything of that nature. If Jones and Jamal Williams are healthy. I think where you could see that is if, they run out to another 3-score lead in the fourth quarter. In that scenario, A.J. Dillon might have played the entire fourth quarter in Minnesota. So barring any of that, let's just double it. Let's just say 6 snaps. Look, if he's going to play more, that means the other two guys are playing less. And I don't see how the Packers get to a point where they're running all of what they want to do on offense with A.J. Dillon in week 2. So assuming no injuries and assuming that it's not a 3-score blowout, let's just go with double, which, again, it's an expanding role as for A.J. Dillon.
Head coach Matt LaFleur said that he wants to get Dillon more involved. However, we'll see exactly how that pans out in the game this weekend. Thank you, Michael, for your question. Let's take this next question here from Kenny. It's less of a question, more of maybe a complaint. You're letting some of your frustration out to us, Jordan. Jordan says, no, Kenny Clark and the Packers have not upgraded anything on the defensive line. He's not happy with the way that the Packers have been building the roster there on the defensive line. Jordan is tired of praying. Who's Kingsley Kiki anyway? No, it's certainly a qualm, a valid qualm that Packers fans have had this offseason. They did not draft any defensive linemen. They did not sign any defensive linemen in the 2020 offseason. Jim, how likely is it that the Packers are able to take a step after giving up 130 yards on the ground to the Vikings just the other week?
Yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and say that they're going to be better without Kenny Clark, because I think unless there's just a radical departure in schematic, ideology really from Mike Pettin, Olivia, like if they play run defense the way they have, how can it be better? So unless in this week they just decided something has to change and they're going to do it differently, maybe they can improve. But yeah, along the defensive line, look, they've been waiting on Montravius Adams for 3 years now. Tyler Lancaster, we talked earlier, it is who he is. He's a solid backup player. Kingsley Kiki is your kind of wild card where you don't know who he is. Is he going to be consistent? Might make a tackle for a loss, but then he might move out of position and give up a large play. So I get Jordan's complaints for sure. I think this week at least, or while Kenny Clark is out, maybe we see Zadarius Smith down inside a little more with Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith on the edges. Maybe that's how they help solve this problem. But I get it, Jordan. That's they've had these issues, and it looks like they'll continue to have them.
Although 14-year veteran Adrian Peterson is not the same running back he was years ago, he is still a threat to the Packers on the ground. They are going to have to be on their best behavior this weekend. Thank you, Jordan, for your lovely question, I suppose. We'll move over to Robin now. Robin asks, will we see any action from wide receiver Equinemius St. Brown this weekend? Great question. No, you will not see any action from wide receiver Equinemius St. Brown this weekend. He is out with a knee injury that he's been dealing with for a few weeks now. He was ruled out of last week's game against the Vikings with the same exact injury. St. Brown has been dealing with some injury, a lack of luck with injuries, Jim, I would say. Last season spent most of the season on IR with a high ankle sprain. He was able to recover coming into training camp, finally healthy, and now yet another setback. How disappointing of a return to practice, to return to game play is this for Equinemius St. Brown?
Yeah, it has to be very disappointing. I mean, look, the team, thought he flashed enough in the little bit of camp before he got hurt at the end of, that training camp session. Really they made the call him over Jay Kumaro, essentially. And why is that? Jay Kumaro is 28 years old, and Equinemius St. Brown's in his third year, and there's what they thought is more of a ceiling. But he's out, and it's one of those things where as this goes, you just wonder how much further behind is he going to be in catching up with the offense and finding a role. This is week 2. He missed all of last year. So, as of now, Olivia, I think, obviously they want to get him healthy, but who knows when St. Brown is going to actually have a role or an impact on this team.
We'll keep waiting, Jim. It's certainly not going to be this week. Thank you, Robin, for your question. Let's take a question now from Jordan. Yet again, nice to hear you again, Jordan. Jordan wants to know if safety Raven Green is back. He asserts that the Packers are tremendously better when Raven Green is playing. Raven Green is questionable with a knee injury for this Sunday, a quadriceps injury for this Sunday's game. He was ruled out of last week's game as well with the injury, Jim. How much better is this Packers defense when Green is healthy and on the field?
I appreciate Jordan's scouting ability. I can't make that leap. I mean, he played a game and a half or a game and a quarter last year before getting hurt against Minnesota in week 2 and then going on IR. He's been hurt again here in camp. I mean, the idea of it, the hybrid safety to help out with some coverage and some run defense. I mean, he's a good player. I mean, he's on the team, and could be a starting position depending on personnel on the other side. But what I will say is, look, Kamal Martin, if he was healthy, they'd be opening in more of a true base defense because they felt Kamal Martin, who used to play safety in Minnesota or some slot corner, I want to say as well, can be that run and cover bigger bodied guy. So getting Raven Green back, of course, would help special teams, would help Mike Pettin with some versatility. But I think going forward, if Martin is back in a week, 2 weeks off the knee injury, whatever it may be, that's where you might see the bigger impact on defense.
If Mike Pettin does continue to opt to use that hybrid safety inside linebacker position, last week he looked to players like the defensive back Will Redmond to fill that role in Green's absence. We'll see if Green is healthy enough to play. There certainly is a possibility this weekend. Thank you, Jordan, for your other question. Let's move over to Dalton. Dalton asks, will rookie quarterback Jordan Love be brought into play anytime this season? The Packers have Jordan Love there as their third quarterback. He is on the active roster. However, he was not active in last week's game because the Packers also have backup quarterback Tim Boyle a step ahead of Love on the roster. Jim, when might the Packers want to bring in Love for some garbage time play at any point this season?
Well, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, the only way I can see this happening is if they've clinched a first-round bye and home field advantage by week 15, 16, and Aaron Rodgers is not going to play. And then that way you have Rodgers inactive or active, so you don't want to break any streaks for him or whatever he's got going on. But he won't play. So Tim Boyle would get the start, and then Jordan Love might clean it up. That's the only scenario as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy. If Rodgers were to go down for the season, that's when I think the Packers would have to make a decision. Because, if it was this weekend, do you need to see 14 games of Tim Boyle when you invested in Jordan Love? Probably not. I think you just go right to Jordan Love. I think if Aaron Rodgers misses 3 weeks in the middle of the year with like an ankle injury, then Tim Boyle starts because you want him to just kind of steer the ship, and then maybe Jordan Love gets in for some kneel downs or some garbage time at the end there. So yeah, Dalton, I just ran through some really highly unlikely scenarios, but if you think you're going to see the first round pick, I think that's the weird stuff that needs to happen.
The best case scenario for the Packers is that Jordan Love does not get out onto the field at any point. It'll mean that Aaron Rodgers is healthy and that they don't need to call him up to back up Tim Boyle at any point this season. Thank you, Dalton, for your question. Let's take our next question from John. If you're joining us now, John, we spoke a little bit about this at the top of the show, but for those of you who are just joining us, John wants to know, what does the O-line look like this weekend? Is Billy Turner going to play or start at right tackle? It's a good question because Billy Turner had been dealing with the right knee injury over the past several weeks. It kept him out of Sunday's game against the Minnesota Vikings. However, he did return to practice this week, both in a limited and a full capacity. Today he was in a limited capacity. Yesterday he was in a full capacity. The day before that, limited again. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster with Billy Turner and his knee injury. Jim, he's listed as questionable on Sunday's injury report. or today's injury report for the Sunday's game. How likely is it that he is the starter at right tackle if he's healthy, and even if Rick Wagner and Elton Jenkins are healthy?
Yeah, I mean, the lane is there for him to play, so I don't know. I think he starts at right tackle as we started here this afternoon. And then look, if he gives it a go and says, "Hey, it's not feeling right, or it's not quite yet ready for that type of action," then I think Rick Wagner is the next person up, and that's why you have Lucas Patrick at right guard next to him, John Runyon backing up there. So my gut is it's Billy Turner at right tackle Sunday.
There you go, John. There's Jim's gut. Thank you, John, for your question. Let's take another question / maybe not a question. Robin wants to know, would love to see Aaron Rodgers get big dog Mercedes Lewis a touchdown this week against the Detroit Lions. How are the Packers using Mercedes Lewis now? We know that he is a big-time blocker, but how likely is it that the Packers would look to him for, in the passing game as well?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be an option in there. I think it's more of a bailout option, depending on the formation. And look, at this point, I think Mercedes Lewis is there to block. Obviously, he has routes and patterns that are part of the progression, so there are options there. I don't think he's ever going to be the first option or the second option, or if he is, it's not going to be very often. Now, to Robin's point, I mean, was it last year in New York? They wanted to get him one, so Aaron Rodgers, I think, called his name out and made the play happen. So they're friends. That's something that the quarterback can do on his own. I think that would be a red zone situation as opposed to, say, or I should even say within 5-6 yards. If they're around the 50, the 45, I mean, you're not seeing a deep ball catch and run to Mercedes Lewis at this point, I don't think.
If you hear big dog, big dog, big dog over the game broadcast, then maybe you can expect a pass going Mercedes Lewis's way. That will be a big tip-off to all you Packers fans at home. Thank you, Robin, for your question. That is going to do it for us today, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back before and after the game on Sunday, so make sure to come back here on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube to bring your questions as I preview the game with Pete Doherty and wrap it up with Ryan Wood. Also, make sure you're checking out PackersNews.com for all of your Packers coverage. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. We'll have lots of updates for you during the game over there. I'm sure there'll be a lot of big injury news before the games as we learn about inactives as well. For Jim, I'm Olivia. We'll see you next time.